Welcome to Shoot Like a Girl, a podcast featuring interviews with extraordinary military women from around the world who push their limits on and off duty. I'm your host, Kate Stewart, and this is episode number 9. Today's guest is Captain Kaitlyn Hernandez. Kaitlyn is an EOD officer in the United States Army. She's deployed to Afghanistan, and this weekend she will attempt to break the women's world record for the 1-mile bomb suit run. She's currently the proud commander of the 717th Ordnance Company in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Kaitlyn, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's just get started by talking about where you're from and what brought you into the military.
All right, so I am Captain Kaitlyn Hernandez, and I am from Buffalo, New York. So Toronto's right next door.
Okay.
So I think it's awesome that you guys are based out of Canada, have spent quite a bit of time there. And, you know, I didn't grow up playing sports or anything. Fun fact, I was actually a cheerleader most of my life. And if you knew me now, that would probably come as a shock. But my junior year of high school, my lacrosse coach, future lacrosse coach, would come up to me. He was my phys ed teacher, and be like, "What are you doing? Why are you cheerleading?" And, you know, I was like, I don't know. I don't know, well, you know, how to play sports or anything. And he was the one that kind of stayed after school with me every day. And he taught me how to run and play lacrosse and do all these things. So my junior year of high school is when I started playing sports and started really getting into physical fitness. And then I would go on to college and play sports. And it was during college where I decided to join ROTC and join the military.
Okay, so I guess we have some different programs in Canada. So ROTC is that where you basically go to a university and do they pay your tuition and then you become an officer after that? Is that how it works?
Yeah, pretty much. So basically, we did PT in the mornings. I would always split my time between PT and my sports. So my coach and my primary military instructor would sit down and they would divide my mornings and my weekends. And then we would do different labs, different weekends away. And then once you're done with and graduated from your university, then yes, you just become an officer.
Okay, and then during your summers off from university, do you do military training then as well, or is it your own free time?
So once again, same thing. It was always divided between sports and military things. We would have summer training and but I also had like spring ball and fall ball coming up. And so there was always something.
Did you have to decide early on that you wanted to be an EOD officer, or is that something that you decide afterwards?
So I was branched ordnance. And honestly, when I got branched ordnance, I didn't know what that was. I knew it was logistics and it was not very appealing to me.
Okay.
So my first training with ordnance, I was sitting in class and 2 EOD techs walked in and they basically too cool for school kind of attitude from just like, yeah, if you guys want to like learn how to blow shit up, you know, you can hit us up after class. And then they laughed. And I was like, I don't know what EOD is or what they do, but they're cool and I want to be like that. So that's how that started.
Okay, and what did the training look like for that?
So once you decide you want to go, there's a bunch of volunteer statements that you have to do, like, yes, I am voluntary to do this. And then you have to put the bomb suit on and you go through a bomb suit test. And basically they make you run and walk around and pick up heavy things. And then at the end, they're trying to ask you like all these math questions, square roots and such, to see if you can, you know, keep your mind about you while you're doing all that in the bomb suit. And then there's an interview process. And then for Army EOD, we have a pre-EOD, which is at Fort Lee, Virginia, about 3 months. And if you pass that, then you go down to Florida for actual EOD school. And that process is just about a year.
Okay, is the one in Florida, I think that some Canadians go down to do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
So the clearance divers in Canada, and then I think also maybe some of the combat engineers go down as well. So That is a pretty good go for for the Canadians. I know they always look forward to going down there, especially if they get on one of the ones where it's during the winter in Canada.
Yeah, we've definitely worked with Canadians before and overseas, and they're always so laid back and fun to be around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess it's good that they find out whether or not you volunteered for it, because there are so many things in the military that you're sort of voluntold to do, but it probably wouldn't look good for the military to be making people forcing people into explosive ordnance disposal.
Yeah.
So after your training, what did the day-to-day job look like, and would you go on deployments after that?
Yeah, so right out of EOD school, I went out to Hawaii. The military's been very good to me as far as duty. So right from Florida, left there, went to Hawaii, was a platoon leader there. For EOD, it's a very small unit, so I was only in charge of 6 folks at the time. And day to day is just a bunch of training. We have full spectrum operations, everything from hand entry techniques and disposal to UXO disposal to going on different missions supporting the president and vice president. Anytime they are traveling, CONUS or OCONUS, continental United States or outside the continental United States, we're deploying teams with them. We are a finder function unit at that point. So anything, the president does, like we go and we're right there with him. We're clearing rooms and luggage and everything else. We do chemical things. We do, you name it, subsurface, surface. So a lot of different things.
Oh, wow. Do you guys support the police units as well? If they were to find, say, a bag in a shopping mall, or would that be strictly up to them to deal with?
We definitely work closely with other agencies, and sometimes they will request our support. Living in Nashville currently, their bomb squad's very well equipped and very well manned. So they definitely can handle it on their own. Are we here for assets? Absolutely. And out of Hawaii, we did work a lot with local police, especially going out. There's 8 islands over in Hawaii. And so we were constantly flying to the other islands. And basically, if local police would find something, they would cordon the area, wait for us to show up, and then we would do our job and speak with them in the media if we had to. So.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in Canada, the military will deal with, sometimes people will find old munitions on land that used to be used as training areas, or find something old that looks like it might be some sort of explosive, but they're not sure. But yeah, most of the major cities have their own police force EOD teams that deal with any of the civilian threats.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That we do get a lot of those calls, and it's super funny. A lot of times it's like farmers that are tilling up the land, and they thought it was cool, so they've been using it as a doorstop, and then someone sees it and they're just like, you should probably call someone about that. So.
Yeah, I think that's happened. In Canada, a lot of what'll happen is someone will pass away, and then they're, that's someone from World War II, and then their children will find something. Or there's even been, there was one guy that had, I can't remember what it was that he had, but he posted an ad on one of the sites where people sell used stuff. And it was just like, oh, that definitely shouldn't be there. So I think the guys definitely paid him a visit after that. Yeah. And then, so did you do any deployments overseas, Afghanistan, Iraq?
Yep, I did 1 9-month to Afghanistan, and it was fine. I think 9 months, in my opinion, is a bit long. Other services, I think, do it right by having like 2 to 4 month deployments, or at the most 6. But then, once I got back, I was able to head to Fort Campbell, where I currently am now in Kentucky. And just about 2 years ago, I took command of the 717th. So I'm currently the commander there, and I love my jobs.
That sounds awesome. And it sounds like you've definitely had some really good postings, like Florida, Hawaii, Nashville. I'm sure there's definitely worse places you could be. What would a typical day look like on deployment?
So when I was deployed, I was with the 101st, so I wasn't doing EOD specific work. But when I was always over with the EOD compound, and basically what it would look like is any local issues that they would have, the guys would roll out. We roll out in teams of 2. So 1 team leader, 1 team member. They would respond to incidences, and I would say within the last few years, op tempo hasn't been as high as, let's say, like probably 2013, 2014 in that time area. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Hmm. So, when along this military journey, or perhaps even before that, did you get involved in CrossFit?
Oh, so CrossFit has been a recent thing since 2017. And I think for me, I actually was reluctant to go to my first CrossFit
Okay.
class. My friend, my best friend, she drugged me along. She's like, you have to try it. I was like, okay, fine. Like, you hear all these things about CrossFit and the
Hmm.
community stuff. And then I showed up and I was there for maybe a week and I was like, I love it. And so it's been kind of an obsession ever since. So
What sort of training did you do before that?
before that, I was just a runner. I ran a lot. I was about 25 pounds lighter than I am now. So all endurance, didn't really lift weights or anything. So I think that's been my hardest part as far as fitness goes the last few years, is trying to put muscle on and get stronger and learn how to, lift weights.
So, during the training for your job, you didn't find that was a hindrance just doing running? When you had to wear the bomb suit, did you think, "Oh, I should lift more to prepare for this," or were you okay with it?
I was okay. I mean, I have always, throughout college and whatnot, been an athlete. So I think it was fine. And when, we're training in the bomb suit, you're just walking.
Hmm.
And sometimes you have to like get up down to like look underneath a car or something and stand up, but it's not like we're running a mile every time we put it on.
Right, yeah, exactly. I mean, were there any times during any of the courses that you did where you felt like you wanted to give up, or maybe that was like that it was a little too much physically or mentally?
I don't think so. I think honestly, what drives me is people telling me that I can't. So the
Mhm.
more one tells me like, you won't make it, or, oh, you're not going to succeed, or, females don't belong doing this and that. Like, I think it drives me deep
Have
down.
have you encountered that a lot throughout your career?
Yeah,
Okay.
quite a bit, which I said, like, it's fine. But I mean, it's not fine, but it's fine for me because like, I don't listen to it to the point where it's going to hinder like what I want to do. Like
Mhm.
I said, makes me push that much further. So
Yeah, because in the States, are there still some jobs that aren't open to females?
I think within the past few years, we're still trying to find normalcy and
Mhm.
where females should or should not be in certain jobs and areas. So I think we're still navigating that ground. There's a lot of jobs that are open to women um, recently that it still might not be 100% climately acceptable. We're still going through a generational phase where there's still first women in different units. There's
Right.
first women to do that, and anytime you have that, it's going to take, I think, probably at least a decade before it's normal for a female to like do those types of things. So
Yeah, for sure. So in Canada, it was actually 1989 that they allowed women into the infantry and like the combat arms trades. So it's been quite a while, and I mean, I don't know if you guys see any of the news from the Canadian military, but our chief of defense staff who sort of spearheaded what was called Operation Honor, which was supposed to be this whole thing to stamp out sexual misconduct. He retired, and then the next couple of weeks they found out that there had been these accusations against him. But I mean, I think it is a bit more, for us normalized in some senses with females going into combat arms and stuff. Hearing stories like that where people tell someone they can't do something, or I've heard other stories from the States where they're like, "Oh, well, women shouldn't do this job and you can't go on that course." So
yeah,
that is hard to hear. But I have read that some women made it through Ranger School recently. There's been a few.
yeah. So I went at an odd time a few years back. It was at a time where the first three females had gone through, and you know I had reached out and I was friends with them, and they're like, for Ranger School, they basically were just like, oh, there's going to be, you know, female observers, there's going to be lane walkers, there's the media, there's a lot of support, everything, all the instructors are on their P's and Q's and didn't really have any issues. So I was expecting that when I showed up. But what had happened was, after they had graduated, I think the pressure for the first female to go through Ranger School was off, and all of those support elements disappeared. So when I showed up, I had nothing. And it was more like okay, game on, you know, like, so I definitely went at a weird time. I was definitely, I've been called like a guinea pig through that time. A lot changed from my experience, which is good. It needed to. So it was unfortunate, like what I had to go through, but like I said, there was a lot of positive changes that came from it. And then after that, it ended in an investigation. But through that, you know, some policies were changed, a couple people were fired. And then, you know, I kept in touch with a bunch of folks going through, and they didn't have nearly as many issues going through after that. And then speaking with recent female Ranger School graduates, they said that nothing how my experience was what they had to experience. So I would say in the past few years, things are on the up as far as Ranger School goes. So it's good to hear.
Do you think you would go back and do it again, or that's in the past now?
It's hard to say, right? Because I got what I needed out of that school. I learned a lot. I definitely went through a lot. And I think I'm just in a different point in my life now. I'll be heading down to Florida. I'm PCSing to Miami soon. And there I will pick up major. And, you know, if I was given the opportunity, if I had just 9 months of just like, because that's how long they plan for that school. And in my, you know, career, that they're just like, here you go, like go to Ranger School, I'd probably go back. But I just don't have that right now. I have career, you know, unfolding in front of me. And so I'm not saying that I wouldn't, but I'm not sure the opportunity will present itself again.
So what advice would you give females that would be preparing to go to Ranger School?
Oh, man. Make sure you know all your Ranger training tasks, your RTTs. Make sure that you can run. That school is a lot of endurance, being able to just put one foot in front of the other. I would say make sure you are rucking heavy and short distances. Usually if you can find a hill or stairmaster or something like that where you're climbing a lot, mountains can tear you down a bit. But I would just say, like, go there with the mindset that you're going to graduate and be a little confident in that regards. You can't go in timid. It's, as much as it is physical, that school is a lot mental too. So
I feel like one of the big things as well, I always hear about men going through it and losing, you know, like they lost 20 or 30 pounds. And I feel like most women wouldn't have that much to lose, right?
It's funny, because I was one of the first females to, you know, go through, they actually pulled me out of class once a week to weigh me. And like I said, it's been recent that I put weight on and muscle on. So back then, when I was still just a runner. So the amount of calories I was intaking, so you get 2 MREs a day, and that is almost 4,000 calories, maybe a little less than that. But that's way more than I was used to eating. So when they would pull me out to weigh me, I was actually gaining weight, and their minds were like blown. They're like, there's no way you're gaining weight. And I was like, so yeah, where my classmates were pretty much decimated and like frail and pale and getting rashes, I was just like, here's my Skittles.
Yeah, I guess that would be the other side of it too, is that the amount of calories for a man to upkeep sort of his body versus a female. Yeah, it could end up that way. So recently you didn't do your bomb suit run yet, did you?
Next weekend, yeah.
Okay, awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, so I'm a little nervous for it. So I think that's where my change in tone is coming from. So yeah, it's next weekend, April the 3rd at George Mason University. And for me, the female, I'm going to be trying to beat the current world record at 11:06. So unofficially in practice, I have beaten it. So now I just have to show up next weekend and just do the dang thing. There will be a male trying to beat the male world record, but I think the male record is like something like 7:30 something.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So yeah, Sean. So he'll be running the male. I'll be doing the female. It's actually currently set by one of my friends, Ashley Sorensen. She was an EOD commander as well, kind of my mentor. So I think she's going to come out for it. It'll be just like a fun event. But I am looking forward to it being done and the pressure being off.
Yeah, I mean, what has your training looked like leading up to this?
So basically, up until this past week, I was doing CrossFit twice a day, 5 days a week. And then I would run in the bomb suit once a week. Different interval training, never like 1 mile every week. So the most I got up to was just under 5 miles of interval training. And those days, it just takes a lot out of you. And sometimes you're trying to hit, different paces and different times. And then sometimes you're just like, I'm just trying to finish at this point. So it's been interesting. And my focus has definitely switched from CrossFit more to this run. This is definitely the priority. So that's what I've been doing.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've tried on one of those suits before, and I can't imagine running a mile in one. And then I'm sure it's probably going to be pretty hot out as well. So that would be sort of an added factor to it.
The suit's okay, but it's the helmet that's the worst. The helmet is 12 pounds in itself. So either, leaning too far forward or too far back, like your whole body just tends to follow it. So that's the part for sure.
And you guys are doing it for a charity, is that correct?
Yeah, so it is a nonprofit veteran-ran organization called Get Headstrong, and basically they provide support and services to veterans who are going through, any type of PTSD, or if they need counseling, anything like that. So.
Okay, wow, yeah, that's awesome. How much money have you guys raised so far?
They haven't told us, which is fine. Honestly, a lot of the proceeds have just been from Sean's shirts and my shirts, and it's all going to a great place. So honestly, at the end of the day, as far as numbers go, any bit helps, and I'm happy that I got to be a part of that. So,
Are they going to put it on Facebook Live or anything?
I do believe so. The link will be posted to their Instagram account, and. I have my family that'll be there, which will be nice to have some familiar faces there. But yeah, it'll definitely be streamed live.
Okay. I'll post that link on my Instagram page. Being in a leadership position, how do you find that men respond to you, or have you had any significant issues in that sense?
Oh, well, I feel like you can speak to this as well. So there's not a lot of females in EOD. When I took over the 717th, June of 2 years ago, I would say it was more like two dogs sniffing each other, kind of feeling each other out. And I think as long as, being a female, they're in a group of alpha males, there's going to be like, okay, can she hold her own? Like, what does she, how is she going to present herself? And I think as long as like you go in, you have a good attitude, you can hang with them as far as like being physically fit, and just being good at your job and caring. I haven't, encountered too many issues, like at least at my company. The guys are great, and I wouldn't trade, even on my worst days in command with them, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It is the best job, and they definitely have welcomed me. So I haven't had any issues as far as being a female commander in an all male unit.
And I find there's this misconception, whatever, when you hear news articles writing things about women in the military, they're like, oh, it's a social experiment. And, I think when you get to a unit like that and the guys realize, oh, you just want to do the same job because you're interested in it and because you like it, not because you're trying to prove something or do some sort of social experiment. It's like, no, I just want to do this also. So that's all.
And it's so funny too, because, physical fitness always gets brought up, but I'll tell you what, it's usually the humble brag, but it's usually my guys chasing me and trying to keep up. So I'm proud of that. Like that I can lead from the front. I work hard so that I can do that. So as far as like physical fitness goes, like that hasn't been an issue either.
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, scrolling through your Instagram, like you obviously work super hard in the gym and you're extremely fit. And if you can run on top of that, that's amazing, because I've always been such a slow runner. And it seems like no matter how hard I work at it, I'm just can't increase my pace. Can you think of a time where you learned a valuable lesson from failure?
Oh, man. I feel like, I've failed a lot. A lot. I've definitely put my mind to goals. And I think anytime you fail from something, you can learn from it. For example, the Ranger School. I was, one FTX away from graduating. And I'm not going to get into all the details of that. And, but I didn't get my tab. But I definitely learned a lot from it. I think, although the pain of failure is immediate and can be very harsh, I think with time, you can look at it through a lens of growth. And anytime you can learn from your failures, you're going to come out stronger and out the other end that much better. So if you're not failing, it just kind of means you're not putting yourself out there to fail. And then, what kind of life is that? You should be getting out there. One of my favorite quotes is the man in the arena. And if you have never read that quote, it's a paragraph, but it's a very awesome quote. And it's kind of how I like to live my life. And it's basically like, if you're not putting yourself in, in a situation where you can fail, then you're not giving justice to this short life that you have. So yes, I have failed a lot, but I try to learn something from it every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's so important. Some people they fail and then they just give up because maybe they think that no one else fails, or they see someone who's successful and they think, oh, well, they've never failed. Whatever they do, they succeed at. But it's usually not the case. And sort of behind the scenes, all these successful people have had all these failures. They get in that mindset and they, like you said, they learn from it and they just pick themselves up and keep going and keep trying.
If you're passionate about something, it should constantly be like this relentless pursuit. And it shouldn't matter the small, failures, even the big failures. Like you have to pick yourself up and learn from it. Grit.
Yeah,
having
exactly.
Grit.
Yeah. And so what advice would you give to women looking to join the Army and specifically EOD?
Do it and don't up. And I'm so biased. I think EOD is the best community. It's so tight. It's our motto is initial success or total failure. And there's a very special mindset that you have to have in order to do this job. And if you want to do it, get out there and do it. Do the paperwork, put in the time and effort to do the bomb suit trial and learn your EOD history, and show up and just be good at your job.
So on a scale of 0 to 10, how accurate was the Hurt Locker?
That's a good question.
Everyone probably wants to know that one.
It was very theatrically enticing. However, probably not the most accurate depiction of actual EOD procedures.
Mm-hmm.
Good question.
What would you recommend for, do you think CrossFit is sort of one of the best ways to get fit and strong for the military?
Ooh, for the military. So the Army has recently changed its physical fitness testing. Before it was a 2-mile run, 2 minutes of push-ups, 2 minutes of sit-ups,
Mm-hmm.
which is all body weight.
Mm-hmm.
So I think any type of running or endurance and body weight HIIT training would have sufficed. Now we are moving into a 6th event, physical fitness testing, where there is a deadlift and there is dragging. I forget the weight, but it's pretty heavy. You're picking up kettlebells. So there's a lot more weight involved. So if you're not doing any type of weight training, you should definitely start. And if you're the type of person that you're willing to put the work in, but you don't know what to do, I would suggest CrossFit, because you can show up and the workout's done for you and you just do it and you leave. And it's 1 hour, it's short and quick, and you're going to get a lot out of it. But you can definitely train up in other ways. I am passionate about CrossFit, but I don't in any way, shape, or form try to force that on anybody else. But it is an easy way to get in shape as far as fitness, strength, and fitness endurance. So
from what I've seen, the women who do CrossFit regularly just seem to have so much more upper body strength than women who might train in other ways. All the stuff that's incorporated, pull-ups and muscle-ups and everything like that, where sort of women might struggle in those areas. CrossFit, it just seems like it comes easier to those women. So
yeah, I would definitely, it's definitely a good recommendation for anybody who's just like, I want to do it, I just don't know what to do.
The Canadian forces have also changed their fitness test. I think it was about maybe 5 years ago, maybe a little bit more actually, where ours used to be just body weight as well. The beep test where you run back and forth and it increases. And then we had push-ups, sit-ups, and this grip thing, and you had to squeeze it, and they would measure your grip strength, and it's not really relevant to anything. But now they've sort of tried to make it a little more relevant to the job. So there's some sandbag lifts and drags and shuttles. And I think definitely people that don't lift weights find that a lot harder than obviously just body weight stuff. So it is interesting in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially like one of our events is a 3-rep max deadlift with a hex bar. So if you've never lifted weights before, that event's going to be harsh to you.
Mm-hmm. And so is it points, I guess, where you have to get so many points to pass?
Yep. There's right now 3 different standards. So depending on what type of job that you have, it's on a different scale as far as, the standards. I believe the initial intent was to have one standard for males and females, but I've heard recently that might be changing. So more to come with that.
Okay. Yeah. And that's another thing in the Canadian military. It's just one standard for the males and females for the test, although they do have it divided between male, female, and then the age group. So you can get bragging rights where you can get bronze, silver, gold, or platinum, which is I think the top 0.1% or something of the military, and you actually get a pin that you can wear on your uniform if you get that. Yeah, I watch on YouTube. His name is Austin Alexander, and it's kind of interesting because he takes celebrities or athletes or different YouTube people, and he'll run them through the Navy fitness test, the Marine Corps fitness test, and the Army fitness test, and then he'll take them on obstacle courses as well. So it's kind of interesting to see. I think he's had like Olympic gymnasts and other people do the tests. So it's interesting to see the different body types and the different athletes and how they do at that.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
All right. So what's the date of the run again? Date and time?
So the bomb suit mile will be April 3rd, between 9 and 11. I believe they will do a weather call that morning to make sure it's not raining or anything at George Mason University. So.
Okay, perfect. I'll definitely be watching for sure, and hopefully you break the record. And hopefully it doesn't cause a rift between friends if you beat your friend's record.
I think she'll be supportive, but I'm definitely looking forward to beating it.
Awesome. So best of luck, and thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Steady, steady, nice and steady. Light, hill, cover. I'm a steamroller, baby. I'm a steamroller, baby. Just a rolling down the line. Just a rolling down the line. I'm a steamroller, baby. I'm a steamroller, baby. Just a rolling down the line. Just a rolling down the line. So you better get out of my way now. So you better get out of my way now. Before I roll all over you. Before I roll all over you.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to help support this podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and review on your Apple Podcast app.